Hello, everyone. This is Andrea. It is Saturday, 2:30 in the morning. I'm reporting to you live uh, to talk about Mary Daly's Beyond God the Father. It has been a long week. I'm sorry if I'm a little rummy, but I have to say this book has got to be one of my favorite books that I've read so far in my theological education. It is so good. So first I want to give a little bit of background and context for Mary Daly and what she was up against at the time she wrote this. You can find some of this background information in Ruther's article. So Ruther talks about how Mary Daly had a Roman Catholic upbringing and education, and in college she really developed a passion she wanted to study Catholic philosophy and theology, but she was denied admission because of her gender. So she has to go all the way to Switzerland to get her doctorate degrees. After that, she comes back and she works as a teacher at Boston College. She writes her first book called The Church and the Second Sex, and it basically pisses off the Boston College people so much that they deny her tenure, and her students protest for her, and then she ends up, they end up reversing the decision. She gets a promotion and tenure. When she gets around to writing her second book, Beyond God the Father, she has essentially come to the conclusion that Christianity and all patriarchal religions cannot be reformed for women. There's really no hope. And so at a sermon she's giving at Harvard Memorial Chapel, she calls on all the women and men who want to join to exodus from Christianity, and they literally get up and walk out, which I think is really powerful. And in the book, there's some quotes from some women who were a part of that walkout, and it's a really good section. I pretty much highlighted and or underlined almost every line in this entire book, so it's all just really, really good. So some conversation partners in the book. So some people that she's in conversation with. She's in conversation a lot with Tillich. I would say she's in conversation with Nietzsche. She is bringing in a lot of people that I am not very familiar with. Janice Raymond, Herbert Marcuse, Margaret Murray, Robin Morgan, Paul Santmeyer, and of course she has a lot of really wonderful references throughout the book. From artists, poets, even my favorite, one of my favorite playwrights, Eugene Ionesco, is quoted in her book. So she really brings in a lot of sources. She does quote the Bible when she's making some really important points about what she calls the demonic trinity, the unholy trinity of rape, genocide, and war. She's quoting from the Bible there. Numbers and Deuteronomy, and some just horrendously disgusting verses. So those are kind of her sources, and basically her thesis, I think, is, there's a good thesis on page 27. I have it marked here. She's talking about Tillich's courage to be, and she says, as he explains, existential courage is dynamic, and it has two sides: the courage to be as a self and the courage to be as a part. And then she goes on to say, I suggest that such courage makes creative, communal, revolutionary hope possible to the extent that the courage is expressed in confrontation with earthly powers and principalities that embody non-being in our patriarchal culture. So she's all about breaking down the masculine-feminine role division, the sex role socialization. And in other ways, she calls it the phallocentric ethic, I believe, is her words. So she basically says that because we're split off, because we're segregated into these roles, we're divided psychically. Men and women are divided psychically within themselves, and so they're alienated. We're alienated from the other half of our being, so we can't approach wholeness unless we go towards a psychologically androgynous way of being. And so that's what she's promoting, and she's promoting it through a revolution of women coming together communally in what she calls the anti-church, which is a sisterhood of women who are refusing the sexist patriarchal structure and are just completely subverting it, really by coming into themselves just as women without having to go towards these expected roles and ways of being. So she's saying we just need to be wild women or witches or hags and really just subvert the whole system. So the Holy Trinity she calls power, justice, and love. And so she is suggesting that we, as women, come together to cast out the demonic trinity that has come before, which has really promoted rape, genocide, and war, and instead promote power, justice, and love. She uses iconoclasm like some of the other, all of our other thinkers have that we've read in the class so far. Her iconoclasm is about smashing images that thwart the becoming of the image of God. So again, she's after sort of an androgynous ideal. So how the argument is related to what we've read so far, I've touched on a couple of these things, but so similar to Nietzsche, she brings up Dionysus and Apollo versus Apollo, and she is pro-Dionysus or chaos, and she just adds a feminine twist to the Nietzschean pro-Dionysus thing. So she calls it the Dionysian feminist ethic, and that is against the I can't pronounce it, Apollonian prudential ethic that she says has dominated thus far. She's also kind of like Nietzsche in that she's it's sort of, you can take the Superman and you can see that her wild woman thing is sort of related, I think, to Nietzsche's Superman, or it's kind of an offshoot of it. There's another great quote involving Nietzsche on page 97. So, as marginal beings who have no stake in a sexist world, women, if we have the courage to keep our eyes open, have access to the knowledge that neither the Father nor the Son nor the Mother is God. God, the verb, who transcends anthropomorphic symbolization. Such knowledge will entail a transvaluation of values undreamed of by Nietzsche or any other prophet whose prophecy was dwarfed by secret dread of the second coming. The event still on its way will mean the end of the phallic morality. Should it not occur, we may witness the end of the human species on the planet. So you can see that Nietzsche's transvaluation of values is making an appearance in the book, but it is being extended or expanded upon. I think that she also kind of echoes a little bit of Cohn she says that the women have to stop, they have to refuse being the other and I think that that sort of echoes some of Cohn's argument about what black folk need to do in relation to being black, because Cohn talks about how blacks are essentially they're non-being, and she talks about how women are non-being, and so I see a parallel there. So as far as critical questions that are raised in the theme of post-theism, obviously she's raising the big question which all post-theistic thinkers are raising, which is about our conception of God and how we can move towards a conception of God that will bring about more justice and wholeness for humanity. I am over time. Thank you very much, and see you soon.